Welcome to The Space Between. On this episode, I am joined by Carine Vinett. Carine is an entrepreneur, inventor, media sales guru, and founder of the Best Friend Zip, an innovative product born out of an annoyance that women face when getting dressed every day. Together, we discuss magic, how to connect with our true magical nature, the importance of finding joy in the small moments, and how remaining curious allows for magic to open up in our lives. Join us as we connect through conversation. Welcome to The Space Between. My name is Alyson, and I'm so excited that you've chosen to join us on another episode of the Space Between podcast. Today, I have yet another amazing guest. I'm so blessed, by the way, to have all these kick-ass people in my life. Carine Vinett, welcome to The Space Between.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here.
And I just have to say, you have been such a light in general, and we're going to talk about it. Talking about magic today, folks. Magic is the theme. And you have been such a supporter of women and me and the podcast. And that is unfortunately not the way things are today. And I just want to thank you for being you and bringing the vibe and the light and the support that you do. You really are amazing. And I want to say that publicly to you.
I mean, I'm not often speechless. You're going to hear me talk a lot today, but that is amazing and that is tremendous. I feel the exact same way about you. I think when we met, we identified something in each other, and yes, all about, making women feel good and happy and helping advance the conversation and just being, a light in this life that we're blessed to have. So thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here. It means so much. We've been thinking about this for so long and we're finally making it happen. So thank you. Real quick, the space between is just this funky, transitory time of crumbling and changing upheaval that we're in. No big deal. Everything's changing, whatever.
The world's on fire. All good.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And it seems to be getting more interesting. We're recording this mid-June of 2024.
Interesting is a very generous word.
Yes. I'm trying to be positive. Yeah. But it's been an interesting start to the summer. It's officially the equinox.
That's right.
So happy summer. And you look like summer today.
Thank you.
Which I was like, this is the perfect outfit. But I really wanted to create this space for really us to have a conversation about reconnecting and reconnecting to ourselves. Today, we're going to talk about reconnecting to our magic and all the good things. And it's time to reconnect.
Word.
So today, talking about magic. And Carine, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
My God, where do I start?
I know it's hard. Everyone's like, whoa, this is a tough question.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when people ask me, tell me about you. Like, I go back to, I was born in Brooklyn, and
like an interview response or like something you would write on social media.
But it's funny, it is the answer. And, from a very early age, I always felt different. I just always felt different. My name it's Carine, it's Carine. My mom is French. So I grew up in South Brooklyn, home of Tony Soprano and the velour sweatsuit. And, my dad is like the Jewish Tony Soprano. He's got the chest hair. He has 2 diamond rings, not 1, but 2. And, he fits the mold. But my mom, completely different. She's this petite, chic French woman. And that really shaped a lot of my life. So I had this kind of, rough and tumble kind of, Brooklyn kind of gusto. But then I kind of had like this, chic cultural angle from my mom.
It's an interesting polarity.
Well, I always say like I'm a sophisticated tough cookie, right? Like I love the fashion.
And you are.
Thank you. But I go from 0 to Brooklyn real quick. Like, I have a heart of gold. I will give you the shirt off my back. But if you wrong me, like...
Right. Don't find out. You don't want to find out.
Exactly. But no, I like to keep it positive. But yeah, no, I've always felt really different from an early age. I had, my name was different.
Yes.
And it really helped shape and guide just a lot of my life. I was always into sports and the arts, acting. I was a radio DJ in high school.
That is so cool. I did not know that.
It was a lot of fun. It was the 90s. I mean, the best
Epic.
time for
Epic.
music. You
Yes.
know, Weezer and Live and, you know, Pearl Jam and Rage Against the Machine and like all of like the best of the best. So that was really fun. You know, went to college in the city. I went to Pace University. And then from there, you kind of get out of the bubble and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life?
Right.
And then I actually started working in magazine publishing. And that's where things really started to take off. You know, it was kind of the height and the kind of the heyday of publishing.
Right.
Think Devil Wears Prada.
Right. For those of you that don't know, there were magazines, and that was all we had.
And they were amazing.
And they were amazing.
They were, you know,
iconic.
Magazines literally raised me. I remember getting, you know, Cosmo and Teen and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was everything. It was kind of like your lifeline. You know what I mean? It was like this roadmap and this guidebook.
Right. It was everything you were going to wear. It was everything you were going to listen to. You wanted to look like that.
Magazines plus 90210 was basically my entire life. And it was glorious.
Absolutely.
And that really shaped a lot. But yeah, no, I started working in magazine publishing. And that is really where my career started and took off. And, you know, everything kind of went from there.
Yeah. And now you are an entrepreneur. You're a media maven. I don't know if that's like the right word. You have such a deep experience in communicating brands and ideas and creativity to the general population, which can't be easy to do. And you have a few children. Your most important is Valentina. Also Scott. And then the best friend.
That's true. I always say I have two kids. I have, you know, Valentina and then the best friend. But yeah, shout out to my husband Scott, who is great. But yeah, no, so it's funny enough, going back to publishing, I was working at Real Simple, which is a magazine all about making life easier. And I want to say it was founded in the year 2000. This was kind of, you know, before, you know, the onset of like the iPhone and Facebook really being a big deal. And just the idea of making life easier when, to be quite honest, life was probably, you know, not nearly as complicated as now, but I would look at everything through this kind of problem solution lens. And every morning I would get dressed up like the corporate Barbie that I was and would slip on my dress and I would struggle, like really struggle to zip up the back of my dress. And I am flexible. I'm a Pilates girly.
If you can't do it, then people are really struggling.
And I'm pushing and I'm pulling and I'm sweating and I'm saying to myself, like, how is this still a problem, you know, in the year 2010 or whatever year, you know, I started it. And that led me to create The Best Friend, which is a premium product that helps you zip up the back of your dress. Wait for it. Cool. Completely on your own.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah.
And what year did you launch this?
The Best Friend launched in November of 2019. I remember I think we kind of used like the pandemic as a marker.
Always.
Right?
For the rest of our lives.
Yeah. So I got really lucky because I'd been working on it for many, many years. And it finally, and by the way, creating a product, I mean, that in itself is magic. I see a lot of these like memes. There's a guy, Crime by Design, who I love. And he posts like, you know, taking an idea out of thin air and creating a product is just
so
it's like spiritual,
difficult.
Right?
It is. There is magic in it.
It is.
You're
really
creating something tangible. So much is service based, right? And this is actually tactile. And it's also so functional.
Yeah, no, I mean, the cool thing about The Best Friend, and, you know, we'll link this and, you know, we'll do a special code for your listeners, is that it's functional because it helps you zip up the back of your dress, but it's an action figure. So it's really cute. Like she's meant to look like your real best friend. So that's been really fun. But having a product made, you know, in China, production, you know, all that stuff is not for the faint of heart. You know, I'm a pretty tough girl and I'm a hard worker, but I mean, you name it, it happened. So we finally launched the product in November of 2019, which coincidentally was holiday season. So how lucky. You know, I'm a big believer in like luck and the
stars align.
110%.
That's magical.
Yeah, definitely magical. So we were able to really get like a nice head start with the holiday, and people were buying them like 2, 3, 5 at a time. Awesome. You know, stocking stuffers, getting one for them, for their mom, for their real best friend. So that was really cool. So that's how it all started.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And there is an interesting dichotomy to you where you have this belief in magic and you're never going to give up. And I think that sort of Brooklyn born and bred girl, magic is not something you can just sit around and wait to happen.
Oh, no. You have to create your own magic. Yeah.
Thank you. And I knew that's where you were going to go because I know you. And that is if there's nothing someone doesn't take away, it is that.
What's that phrase? And is it Einstein, like inspiration and perspiration?
Right.
Right?
Totally.
But it is interesting, right? You have to do the legwork, but there is a degree of magic. And, just putting it out there. I always say, I always believe something wonderful is about to happen, and Alyson and I talk about this. It's a tough time. It's a really tough time in the world. I am, glass 3/4 full kind of a girl. And it is a really tough time anywhere you look, politically, overseas, with the economy, inflation. I mean, there's no shortage of things. And, I think we're doing better than most. But it is really, I feel like the things, I'm very sensitive. So I really need to kind of shield and protect my energy because I can absorb things very easily. So that's been a challenge. But I think that, staying on your grind, staying focused, always believing that good and magic is just around the corner and just really kind of staying focused. And, hopefully will pay off. It has definitely in ways for sure. I've definitely had a lot of really cool and fun things happen. But I want it all. Right. I want to get on the rocket ship.
And I want to talk about that too, because I think there's something to be said in the digital, social, all constant in your face, where we always think there has to be this big, big event. And I want to talk about the small magic. I definitely want to come back to that because I think that's a piece that I've been missing in my life. And I know if I'm missing it, other people are missing it, right? Because we're not alone. So the definition of magic, I have a few of them because we always read a definition on the space between. The Oxford Dictionary, oldest dictionary in the world, the secret power of appearing to make impossible things happen by saying special words or doing special things.
I liked the first half of it. The first half of it, yes.
It fell off.
Exactly. I was like, say no more, that's it. I don't want to hear the 2 and the 3.
No, totally.
But then it jumped off a cliff, saying special words. I'm not hocus pocus with my bubbling cauldron. Yeah.
That is what magic was.
You were saying, yeah.
And that's a narrative.
That's not our magic.
That is not our magic.
No.
And it had its place. If you think about logically, right, the two pieces are the magic is what we necessarily can't see. And then you have, I don't want to say reality because they're both a reality, but then you look at the here and now and what you can see, touch, right?
Sure.
Smell, taste, all of those things. Magic is not that. And so I think for think about how many years ago this was, the 1800s, right? Early 1900s. It's well, yeah, magic is weird because at that point, we were just discovering how to build a car.
Right.
And put it on the road. So for me, I always have to go in my head okay, that was a very, very different time.
Sure.
But what I think is cool about that, when you think about, witchcraft and magic and all of the things that had such a negative connotation, those people were saying, you know what? This reality isn't enough for me.
Sure.
This isn't it.
It's kind of wild that you said that because that really struck a chord with me.
Right.
I want more than this.
Right.
This is cool and all, but let's dial it up.
Right. And that is why the persecution of a lot of women who believed in what was coined the occult.
Yeah.
Right?
Witchcraft.
Devil worshiping and all of this, quite frankly, bullshit. That's not what it was.
Yeah.
Right? These women were saying
they wanted more.
There is something more than what meets the eye.
Sure.
Right. And I think now that there's so many years that have passed and so much magic that has happened to each of us, every single person that will listen to this podcast has had something magical happen to them that's unexplainable.
Right.
Right. That you're kind of oh my God, and from an astrology perspective, Uranus is a planet that shakes shit up. Right. It's you never know what's going to happen. My chart is ruled by Uranus. Yay! So
that makes so much sense.
I constantly feel I'm being shaken like a salad dressing.
Our work is done here. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's, it's this whole kind of, I think, interesting shift that has happened where this better not be all there is.
I can't, it's just crazy to me. I mean, you're hitting on so many things, right on the nose. And I remember thinking, I want to say it was today or yesterday. I want to say it was today. I'm I have to believe that there's more than this. And I don't know if it's where we're at in our lives, and just the age that we are. But I just feel, I mean, I just remember being in my 20s and 30s and nightclubs and concerts and Miami and all that stuff. And I still do a degree of that. It feels different. And it's obviously the frequency is much less. But I often think like, is this it?
Right.
Because
yeah, because everything's shifting too in the space between what we think about all of those times. Like, doesn't it just feel like a totally different life? Like that could never happen again.
It totally does. But I'm just thinking, are we just going on like a downward trajectory? I hope not.
Right. There's a lot of that energy out there.
But it's funny too, and I don't know what your experience is. And I know that obviously you have listeners, all, over the world and all over the United States. But, in New York, right? Everyone's like, oh, New York, best city in the world.
Right.
Is it?
It's changed a lot.
You know what? When we would go out many years ago and you go to certain restaurants, you'd be like, oh, this is it. You
right.
never know. You'd run into an Olsen twin. I mean, I worked in, magazines. I mean, there was just no, you want to talk about magic? That was magic. Every single night was magic.
There was something big that was happening.
Now, we're lucky we go to all these great places and I'm like, this is it? Like everyone's like, oh, this restaurant, I'm like, really? Like, do they have different standards than me? So I don't know, but I am constantly
changing.
I'm constantly searching and looking for the magic, and I find it, but it's a little bit more challenging now.
And it's different. And I think a lot of what you said is interesting because there's the space between is such a collapsing of structures, and structures are celebrity. That's a perfect structure, right? We're going to look to celebrities to tell us what to wear, to tell us what to believe, to tell us what to think, right? Think about those magazines when we were kids.
Sure.
All you wanted to do was look like them and talk like them and be like them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the reason that I wanted to move to New York. It was like this fast, cool. I mean, I didn't grow up in Brooklyn. I grew up in a really small town on a dirt road. So I would come here and be like, this is where it's at.
Sure. I can see that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of what's happening with the structures in general, it's like we're shifting like that. Even for kids that are in their 20s today, like young adults, that's not the thing anymore because things have changed.
Sure.
And it's becoming like an inside job. And I think the second most important point is the magic comes from here.
Sure. Yeah. I think about that too, as a mom. My daughter Valentina is 9, almost 10. And, my parents did such a tremendous job with us, but, we kind of had to figure a lot of it out on our own. It was a different time.
We were latchkey kids too, right?
We totally
Which would never happen.
Yeah. Oh my God, please.
Right.
But it was a different time. I arm her with so many, sound bites and things and psychologies, and she like more times than not just like rolls her eyes. But I'm thinking to myself, like, babe, like I wish someone gave me this information. Like I am giving you the roadmap to just, really just kind of shake things up and, have it figured out, much younger than I did. But it's an interesting time. I don't envy these kids growing up. I really don't.
It's very difficult.
Valentine is a good head on her shoulders, but she's on YouTube and she's a girl. I mean, we kind of grew up, it was a different time. There were, toxic like diet culture and just all of that. I mean, my God, and it's really shaped a lot of kind of some of my habits today, right? Just my mindset.
We're all somewhat addicted to social media. Unless you don't have an account, and bravo if you don't, like amen and God bless.
I don't, yeah.
But if you have an account for social media, like, and I think
it sucks you in.
And I think that's an interesting point too, real quick, because that zaps you from your magic.
It totally does. And I am on, Instagram way more than I would like to be. That said, I have a very good head on my shoulders. So I don't have a lot of this envy that maybe somebody who has a different life must be like, oh my God, look at this person in Europe on a yacht, like whatever that looks like.
Right.
I can kind of differentiate. Right. And listen, things aren't always as they appear. But I do
on social media, they're not as they appear because no one's crying and puffy faced and flipping out.
Right. Well, I'm gonna keep it kind because sometimes people do that, and I feel like that's like a thing too.
Oh,
right?
That's true. That's true. For attention seeking, not for authenticity's sake.
But I think about kids growing up today, and then they're just seeing all of this stuff, and they're frontal cortex, isn't developed yet, and they're not able to really differentiate.
Right.
You know?
You can do that, and I think it's important too.
And I don't think it's easy to, even at our age, I don't think it's easy to do that. So
it gets easier as we get older, I think, but it's still a struggle. There's times when I know I have to disconnect because it's really having a bad impact on me.
Yeah.
There's times but as you're saying, a child or even someone that's in like their 20s, they can't do that. You're just still so impressionable.
Yeah.
And it's disconnecting. Yes, social media connects us, but in a lot of ways, it's disconnecting us from ourselves and from each other too. So it's that weird polarity.
And nature and all of the things that are like really important. I feel like a lot of like wellness people that I follow who I feel like are the real deal, they talk about, we were not meant to be inside, hunched over at a desk
And
for
staring at a
X
screen.
amount of hours.
Yep.
Yeah. So, listen, we live in New York City, and I try and get out as much as I can, and try and just connect with nature and humans and magic. But you have to make like an effort to do that because, your job and everything else will pull you away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that because I think there's such a balance that's needed now. We're so imbalanced, and there's kind of an image that exists in my head, and I'm very visual in general. And I just feel like it's a pendulum, right? So when you think of like a pendulum that swings back and forth, right? We are so far like stuck on this one side of the pendulum, and the energy is so tight and it's thick, and it's, it's just, you can feel it. It's gotta eventually, I believe, it's gotta eventually start course correcting.
We say that like, we're like, because it has to, right? But like, what about the other side of that?
Totally.
And
that would be entertaining, but that would be.
I don't know if entertaining is the adjective I would reach for. It's just a really crazy time. And, you really have to hold on to the magic, find the magic, seek the magic, feel the magic. Because I think that it will, be like a little turbo, like jetpack, and it will fuel you. And I think good things will happen.
So what would you say magic is to you? And I thought about this for myself too.
It's a really good question. Energy, I think, is a really big part of it. I think at the stage where I'm at in my life, I am really big on, I will meet people. So this is really funny. So I'm sure she'll listen to this, but Kyla Wright from Urban Decay, I adore you. So, L'Oreal is one of the accounts that I work with, and they're an incredible, tremendous company. And, I was going on some sales calls in Los Angeles, and I meet this like beautiful girl. Her name's Kyla. And she's dressed really colorful. She's wearing these like funky, not sneakers that you see on other people, but like, and then she has these like Mr. T pins and patches. And, we have this meeting, and it's a good meeting, and it was like an onion, and it was like my like alien being and her alien being
I love
were
that.
like, we identified something in each other, and it was really funny. It was like, we had this meeting, and it was lovely, and it was great, and we just started forming this friendship. And I think we friended each other on Instagram, and then it has literally been a house on fire since.
Aww.
And it is just,
I
can tell, if she needs some love and TLC, she's very empathetic. It's just this, it's kind of this understanding. And it's funny, there's someone else that she works with, also at the same company. Her name is Natalie Myers. Same thing. And like we call ourselves like the unicorn crew. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm at a place in my life where I really look to find other humans that have that magic in them, because it's kind of like 1 + 1 = 3, right? It's a ton of fun just in general, because you're not like in this box 9 to 5, Old Navy, America, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, let's shake things up. Like, let's make this life count. Like, it's just amazing finding other like-minded humans. So energy and finding other humans that have a similar sensibility. I love people that question me, that make me think. I want to say, like, there's a lot of people, my God, 85, 90% of this world, maybe that's even a conservative number, that, it's time to make the donuts and, wake up, rinse, repeat, pay
the
bills.
Same life over
I
and
tell
over.
my husband that all the time. Like, I'm not here for that. Like, yes, we have responsibilities and things like that, but I'm all about the magic, right? It's work hard, play hard. So I would say magic, a big part of that is energy. And I think also just the universe, right? Like, things just happening. I was walking around Central Park yesterday and was kind of like, just kind of in like a, funky headspace. And I see this girl and she has this tattoo on her neck and it says, free yourself. And it, like, if you look, guys, you will see the signs. It is all, I really believe there is someone up there, in the best possible way, being a puppet master, being like, okay, Alyson's having a tough day. She needs this. Cue, da da da.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's how I think.
No,
but
I
it's
think
also
that's
a lot more
beautiful.
fun to think like that, I think.
It is, and especially in the dense energy. I mean, I love how you ended that because it is an energy. And for me, when I think about magic, it's really this kind of feeling that you get when you can tap into something bigger than what it is you can see.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, okay, you're having those days when you're just like, oh, like you said, you're in a funky headspace in the park and boom. And when you open yourself up to that, life becomes magic. It's not just like, oh, okay, because sometimes I remember years ago, it would be like a year would go by until I had something that felt magical. But then when I started to believe in the magic and to really to believe in it.
We should stop down on that.
Right.
Believing.
That is
a big thing. I mean, there's like a phrase like ask, believe, receive. I've always believed. I'm a believer. And I know a lot of people that are, out there and they're doing the work and they're listening to podcasts and they're doing all the self-help things. And I think it's incredible just to do the work and to put the legwork in. You have to believe. If you don't believe 110%, you're wasting your time. And I get it. It's not easy. I don't envy people that have, they're trying to reprogram and rewire, and we all have our things, but you really have to believe all in or it's just not going to work, and it's not like I'm willing myself to figure out what the lottery numbers are. Like you just have to believe in the good and the positive. And
right.
I believe
there's also delusional belief, but that's different.
Right. But like I believe in the power of love. Like it's just belief is so tremendous, and people will say it, but unless you feel it in every fiber of your being, you're wasting your time.
Absolutely. And the magic, if you can hook into that feeling, that's what the inspiration, perspiration, because the magic will open up the doors.
For sure. Yeah.
Otherwise, if I'm in a space, and I don't know about you, where I'm just feeling super down and things just seem really bleak and we all have those moments, I'm going to have a harder time being motivated to do what I need to do.
I know.
And that's another key to the magic, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, if you lose belief, do whatever, and we're not here to tell anybody what to do. Do whatever it is you need to do to find small little pieces of magic. It doesn't need to be, and this is why we always circle around to everything that I want to talk about.
It's so funny. Like I feel like I'm very guilty of just like shouting out all these amazing people in my life. But like next one up is Melissa Anthony. She's someone that I used to work with, and she always says, celebrate the small wins.
Yeah.
And that is like, that is a big thing. And that always stuck with me because there are small wins. Somebody, bought you a drink or, sent you a care package or held the door. I mean,
if you smile from a stranger.
If you look for it, you will see it. And
Right.
there's so many small wins. And sometimes I'll think about, when I'm kind of taking inventory at the end of the day, when I'm going to sleep, just kind of about some of the highlights, and they could be big or small.
That's beautiful. I love that kind of like an end of the day wrap up. Like, what were my little pieces of magic? Because I think a lot of people journal. I like that. I might start incorporating that.
I would love to meditate. I would love to journal. There's a lot going on here. There's 24 hours in the day. But I love that. I love people.
You're just taking a moment to be present with what your day
it's
has
all up
brought
here,
you.
in my head.
And
for sure.
Because you are so much heart.
I'm definitely.
You are. You have such a big heart.
I play with heart. Yeah. I mean, listen, we're so lucky and we're so blessed, and it's a crazy time. And again, we're still kind of focused on being like, we know good things are coming. We know that we're gonna, get out of this, and happier days will come. And we've experienced so much, in such a short amount of time.
Very challenging time.
Yeah, but I just have to believe that things are going to get better. And listen, be the change that you want to see. You know what I mean? I'm raising a tiny human. I have, next shout out, Julie Wilson from Cosmo Magazine. She has 2 beautiful sons, just raising these just tremendous, beautiful young men with all of these amazing, kind of core foundational, values that she has. And, her boy is just kind of running out into the world and it becomes like a boomerang,
Right.
So,
that's a beautiful piece too. And I can't speak to that. But when you are, because I'm not a mom, but when you are putting your heart into another human, right?
yeah.
That's very magical.
It's
First of all, you created a human. Let's take a step
Kind of
back.
wild.
Super magical. And then you get to help shape parts
and
of
it's a big job. And it's funny, you see this as a parent and, everyone kind of has their own way of parenting. But, I remember when Valentina was little, we'd go to the playground and you would just see such bad behavior. And my parents were really big on manners.
Right.
And I mean, especially with the boys, right? Like these kids just be like little monsters. And like, here's my like sweet, precious little girl, and it was.
She is so sweet too.
Thank you. She adores you. But no, but it's really nutty. But like the kids are learning it from somewhere, right? They're not just like, they weren't just born into
everyone was born pure.
Right. But it's crazy. You have these parents that are not correcting these behaviors. Kids, of course, they're going to, what can I get away with? What can I, let's have ice cream for dinner. But it's like, if they're not correcting that behavior, so it cuts both ways.
It goes both ways.
It cuts both ways.
What would you say is the magic, I don't want to say of parenting, because that kind of seems like you're like, wait,
hokey.
I don't really. But what would you say the magic is in raising Valentina has been, if you could talk about that?
What's been really interesting, I feel like, in continuing with my shout out marathon, I have a friend, his name's Sir John, and he's a celebrity makeup artist. He works with some of just the best people in the business. And I think one day I was just talking to him about Valentina and some like, stressing things that were stressing me out. And he said to me, he goes, she was sent here to save you.
Oh.
And that, I know, that really got me. Shout out Sir John.
So
love you.
Beautiful.
But that really got me because I think that up until very recently, I parented her just kind of what innately came to me. And kind of, having that conversation with him and just other things basically made me realize I need to parent her the way that she needs to be parented. So I'm teaching her, but she's teaching me. And, I have a lot of great traits, but, I'm not patient. I'm not, so it is really slow down, enjoy the moment, be present. Like there's so many things that it teaches you, and it's not easy. And, mom guilt is real. But it's, I think it's kind of like this two-way street. And I think that's, bringing it back to magic. I mean, listen, kids are magical,
Absolutely.
They're not tainted by the things that we, have been exposed to. And I mean, I remember when Valentina was like 2 years old, she would flush the toilet and just start giggling. Like she thought it was the funniest. She thought the sound of the
If only we could find magic from flushing the toilet again.
Literally.
We'd be such a happy population
she
with all of the
thought
toilet flushing.
It was so endearing where it just made her, she would squeal with excitement.
Aww.
And I mean,
that is so cute. I could totally see her doing
and
that too.
That's a lot of kind of what you see. It is really amazing to see the world through their eyes. I mean, I grew up like E.T. was a big deal. And like,
yes.
I joke, I'm like, she's new to Earth. Like I have to show her and
Right.
teach her and, stuff like that. So
That's beautiful. And, when we talk about the small magic, even just saying good morning to someone, especially here in New York City, I do this on purpose.
yeah.
I'll just say I'm coming out of, a coffee shop, or I'm walking into my office, or, walking into the apartment building. Good morning.
Oh yeah. I've got
Watch the magic happen.
I heard
It's
this.
like this. People are like, they come alive.
Well, New York is a special breed.
It's very
right?
special breed.
I mean, I remember we were, I want to say it was in Anguilla, and it's like everyone is so lovely, which is funny, right? Because that's how we met
on an airplane.
So for those of you that don't know the story,
Random.
Alyson, we've got, and her husband Oliver, they're just like this adorable couple. We would like see them every now and then. And I can't remember when it was, but basically like one day we're boarding a flight to go to the Caribbean. And I'm like, said to my husband, I'm like, that's the girl in our building. So we're like, oh my God, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Whatever. Then it was St. Martin, right? Because you can't get a direct flight. Then we're checking in immigration in Anguilla, and who's there? Alyson and Oliver. And that's really where the love affair started.
Yes.
So much so, one better than that.
This is magic. Okay.
Yes. By the way, you want to talk about magic? This is magic. There are no accidents.
No.
A few years later, we obviously kept in touch. We'd hang out, all the things. But we were talking, we would always be going on vacation. Like, where are you going? Where are you going? She's like, oh, we're going to Greece. We're like, oh my God, we're going to Greece. So we're like comparing our itineraries. And we basically realized that on this one day, which coincidentally was my husband's birthday.
40th, right?
Was
it his big birthday?
I remember. It may have been.
I feel like it was his
right.
Also, COVID has zapped all of our memory power, so no one knows what happened.
Right.
But anyway,
that
it was
feels right.
For sure his birthday.
So basically, we realized that we're both going to be. It was Mykonos, right? Yeah, we realized that we're both going to be in Mykonos on this one day. So we're like, we are totally getting together.
And
so we literally,
so
we get together. We went to Scorpios. We went to this sunset party.
It was so
and had this
fun.
amazing, magical, lovely dinner with this owner of the restaurant singing, in Greek to my husband.
Unbelievable. And we were all sitting there, and those are the moments that feel like magic. And that could happen anywhere, right? Like, you could end up bumping into somebody in Ohio, right? And just the fact that everything happens exactly how it should. And that is magic in itself.
Yeah.
If that isn't magic, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and more that, and I've had things like that happen. That's definitely a top tier.
I've never had anything happen.
I ran into a former coworker. I want to say it was in Buenos Aires, at a flea market. I'm like, oh my God, hi, listen, I believe in magic, and magical things happen. I was, doing kind of some research, and doing some homework before our podcast, and it's one of these quotes where it's those that don't believe in magic will never find it.
Oh, it's so well said.
I'm a daddy's girl. I love my dad. Shout out Howard, who probably is unclear of what a podcast is, but we will walk him through it and we will make him listen to this.
Howard's going to love it.
He's the best. No, he's the best. But I remember I was in college or whatever, and we were talking about love and romance, relationships. And he's like, listen, because he's very pragmatic, very much a realist, and he's like, if you meet someone and you see fireworks, someone hit you over the head with a frying pan, basically being there is no such thing. And I was totally get where you're coming from, but no, I disagree.
Right.
And
you even knew then.
And I'm all about the fireworks,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful that you bring that to him.
Yeah, he's definitely a very interesting person. But listen, you have to. I think we all have an inner compass and an inner voice, and you have to honor that. And I think it'll help guide you. You have to listen. Sometimes I think when you have kind of difficult decisions in life, the answer. We know all the answers. If we're supposed to take this job or take that job or be with this person or whatever it is, we know. But it's not easy. But you have to listen to that voice,
Right.
Yeah.
And another thing too, and then I have some questions for you. We are sitting on a rotating ball of water and nature and matter that rotates around a sun. That's pretty effing magical, if you ask me.
I would say so.
And I think that so much of what is happening now is that we've gotten so far away from our connection to nature.
I think about this all the time.
Yeah. If anyone, right? Not you, but anyone that's listening feels disconnected from your magic.
Yeah. Go outside.
Go spend time in nature. I was just walking by the water the other day and I saw the most beautiful flower, and I just stopped and I just stared at it, and I watched this queen bee just kind of drop in and come back out. And I was like,
that's what it's all about.
Oh my God.
No. We sound high right now.
I feel high right now. High on nature and magic. Imagine that. It's better high than anything else I've done.
No, but it's really true. And I think about that. I think in the year 2024, there's so many amazing advancements, but it's working against us. And I think it takes a lot where you really have to evaluate and say, what's working for me, what's not. The internet's a great place. Social media is super fun, but believe me, I'm on it way too much, and I need to get back into nature and more of that. But it's true. Like I really think about just these core things that, you know, when we were growing up or, you know, generations before us, just being outside, you know, family, love, charity, just all of these things that are really important. And it breaks my heart because we've gotten really far away from that. And it's just so, we live in such a distracted kind of fragmented time, and you really have to be like, you know, time out.
Right.
Is this working? Let's make adjustments.
I love that you're saying that, because I also don't want people to feel like we're sitting here going like, oh, everything's great. No, things are very shitty. And we sit here with privilege. I can't imagine where people are at, especially certain places in the world, certain things that are happening. I get it. We're not trying to spiritually bypass here. But at the same time, those who can choose, and I did like a reel, or I don't know, I'm still trying to get into the social media thing. You know me, I'm a novice.
Sweetie.
Thanks. But I did something about this where it's like, you really, if you can choose, you have to choose this. You have to choose the little tiny joy or the little tiny piece of magic or the piece of presence or the piece of calm, because that is a radical act right now. If you can choose, you are needed to do that. Everyone came back here for a specific purpose. I believe that in my heart. And there's people that are fighting injustices. There are people that are, you know, out on the front lines, like doing their thing. And that is so admirable. That can't be everyone,
Sure.
right? And so I think a lot of what this podcast is to show people that there are these little pieces that if you can choose and you choose them, you are literally raising the vibration of the planet.
Yeah, no, you bring up a really valid point. And I think about that, but, you know, I want to leave the world like a better place than how I found it, you know, and
Absolutely.
Just connecting with people. I read this quote once where it's like, people, like, let's just say if we didn't know each other and I just saw you in the street and my inclination was to smile at you, they're like, those are the best people.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's very telling. And that's who I am, just at my core.
Same.
By the way, New York, like, be careful because you might get knifed.
I still do it though. I don't care.
No, I know. By the
If
way,
that's how I'm going down,
right.
That's how I'm going down.
the story won't end like that. No, energetically, I know kind of who and, you know, who I should.
I was just going to say, you're energetically saved because you're going to know like who to speak to and
but,
who not to speak
but
to.
It's, you know, people, everyone's going through something. And, you know, it's interesting. We're all dealt different hands and different set of cards. But those little moments and acts of kindness. And by the way, like, raising the energy and the vibration is really important.
Yeah.
You know?
It's never been more needed than now.
It hasn't. You know, we were talking about this before, where I think we're such a small percent of the population that feel like this and live like this, and, you know, with every fiber in our being. You know, the masses, unfortunately, are in a completely different state, and, you know, they've got numbers.
Yeah.
You know, and that's. But I you know, I believe in good over the power of evil, and, you know, that you know, everything will work out. But it's wild. I mean, people, to your point, like, we're going through some stuff. Like, people are going through some stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from, or, you know, how are you going to pay your rent and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So anything that you can do to bring joy and happiness and positivity and raise the vibration is really crucial. So I would urge anybody who's listening to this podcast, like, please, anything that you can do to make the world a better place, to do a charitable act, you know, to pay it forward, like, please do that, because it will multiply and it will send out, like, vibrations throughout the universe.
Yeah, it's a ricochet of energy.
Yeah.
And if you are especially having a day where you feel all the dense energy ricocheting, because let's be honest, this is the third dimensional construct. There is no, you know, good without evil. There is no hot without cold. It's the concept of polarity. It's one of the 7 laws of the universe. Like, it just is. But at the same time, back to my pendulum example, I love that example. It's like, we're over here. We have to do our part.
We have to start
course correcting,
inching back, right?
And I love that we share that. I think that's the thing.
That's probably one of the reasons why we connected,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And when you keep finding your magic, it's easier to find your tribe. And I love that you're doing shout outs to the people that mean a lot to you, because that's the tribe. You are putting that out. That's what you're getting back. You know, karma, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right. That is a big piece of this too. So.
Yeah.
Well, time is almost up. It goes so
time
fast.
is flying.
I know. So 2 last questions for you. How has your thought of magic or your idea of magic changed over the last few years since the pandemic and, the space between, as I coin it?
I mean, I like to kind of shoot from the hip and just the first thing that pops into my head. I'm the opposite of like analysis paralysis.
I love that.
I mean, listen, we need magic now more than ever. Like full stop. So like I was saying before, like you have to believe. You really truly have to believe. But like I would encourage everybody listening, like give it a shot. See what happens. What do you have to lose? Nothing. Right. I would just say that we need magic and love and positivity now more than ever. And we need to start multiplying, and we need to have a movement to really combat all of these things that are going on in the world, because, generations ahead of us are we don't want them to suffer. We want to leave the world in a good place. And I really think that times are tough, and we have to do everything that we can to really lean into that magic and to believe, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
And there is a responsibility to it. And I think that's what I hear you saying, right? We have a responsibility to the people that are coming after us and the humans that are coming after us.
I think about that every time I recycle. I'm just
right.
like, my daughter's grandkids will thank me.
There's so many things. Yeah, there's so many things. So my last question is, what is your hope for the future when it comes to magic and sort of living the way that you live?
Wow. It's a very deep question.
I know.
What is my hope for the future as it relates to magic?
Yeah.
I think that I would hope that people can lean in a little bit more, right? Yeah. I think someone like my dad is a great example. Like he's very much a realist. And listen, like I have my feet on the ground. I very much
you're
live
not
in
living
reality,
in delusion.
but I like kind of playing both sides. But I think that if the people that maybe, are like my dad, where they're like, oh, believe it when I see it, something like,
right.
I think if
and skeptics are important.
Sure.
They keep us a little more, us people, we need some grounding. Sure. My dad's very skeptical too. So it's funny that we have similar.
Right.
I'm not surprised by that.
Like
actually.
I would talk to my dad about like, oh my God, I got this amazing, astrological reading. And
he's like, what?
Oh, how much did you pay them?
I know.
Oh, well, yes, that's their job. But
my poor dad, my whole family's into it. And he's like, oh my God. Yeah. There has to be one where he's like,
if you could pay someone to see the future, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, like, I don't know.
He's like, okay, Carine.
Yeah. No, seriously.
My dad's the same
way. You paid what? Yeah.
Our dad should hang out.
By the way, I think it's like a generational thing. But yeah, totally. I would say if you can, it almost feels like a Disney movie, right? Where it's like, if you can like take that leap and just believe and try it out and put magic into the world and, just believe in the whimsy and the power of good and positivity and really lean into that, because one, I think your life will be better for it. And two, like we need it. Yeah. The world really needs everybody to help and contribute, and we need to combat a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in the world. And, just like there's bad stuff, I think that we can combat that
and
with
counteract.
Yeah, with magic and love and light.
I totally agree. And I absolutely love that. It is imperative that anyone that is feeling the nudge, if you're listening to this or if you're reading something or if you're digging,
you're being inclined, you feel a calling.
Follow the path. We talk about this on the Space Between all the time. Dive in, get curious, read it, watch it, live it, vibrate it, do whatever you have to do. Once you open, it's like opening up a closet, right? You're like, oh my God, there's all these things in here. Once you open that door, I can promise whatever the path is, that is a better path. It is.
It's true. Listen, one of my things is, I like being curious and childlike.
Yes, so important.
And knock wood, I've just always been like that, but I don't want to lose that. That's really important to me. That has served me in life and in business and friendships and love. Be curious, be childlike.
That's our true nature.
Yeah, like don't grow up. It's a trap.
It is a trap. And even when I spend time with Valentina, I get doses of that, right? And that's what I love about being around children. Yeah. And that is not to be looked away from.
Right. Or even just glossed over.
Right.
like,
Because we're
yeah.
we're so quick in the society, especially now. And that's a whole other podcast topic, but like nobody cares about the kids. Like, okay, I don't know when that happened, right? People just seem like it's like, oh, all about this and this. And the focus is not on children. And it really should be. I mean, they are closest to whatever the life they had before this, right? And their divine nature. As you get older, shit happens and you just get jaded. And it's
Sure.
like, you got to break
Well,
through that wall.
You're shaped by
right?
your experiences.
And it's very hard. I can imagine that someone that has just had tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, but that's what I'm saying. Like, take that little step or smile or say hello or just do something small where you can follow that trail.
Yeah.
And it will lead to a different life.
We promise.
We promise.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Oh my God, thank you for having me.
This was
totally
so
made my
great.
day.
And
I feel like there's a ton of magic.
spreading your magic and spreading your light. And for those that joined us today, we honor the magic in you. And we really appreciate all of the time that you've spent with us today in the space between. We'll see you soon on another episode. Thank you so much for joining us in the space between. We hope this conversation sparked connection for you. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who will find value. And make sure to tune into our next episode as we continue the journey into the core themes of our lives. We'll see you again in the space between.